In an 8-letter phrase for On a Planet, where copy editors are incompetent and the entire western United States lies in Santa Clarita, California, Mary Horowitz will seek for the answer to 9 down love.
Hey!
Good surprise!
Yeah, yeah. Look at you, here.
Sorry it took me so long.
It did,
Yeah.
it did. You came here all the way just to see me?
Yes, sir. Asking you shall receive. You know who said that?
No.
Jesus.
Did Jesus tell you to come here?
Jesus asked me to come here. Oh, you did.
Good.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bad movies out there. Listen as we try to find the ones that are so bad, they're actually good. Is it just bad? Or is it exceptionally bad? Bad movies with your friends. Bad movies with your friends. Oh, yeah. Hi, welcome to another episode of Exceptionally Bad. I'm Ben.
I'm Brant.
I'm Bracken.
I'm Nate.
And we don't have Danny with us tonight, but he's here in spirit. This is our first episode of Season 4. And, last season we did the season of sequels. This season we have kind of a special idea. This is Season 4, the season of 4 seasons. That's what I like to call it. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to pick a topic, and each of us will pick a movie that fits within that genre or that topic, and we'll present it to the group, and we're going to see whose is the most exceptionally bad. So for our first mini season within the season, we've chosen romantic comedies. And so we definitely watched one today.
Did we? Did we though?
I would say we experienced it.
Yeah.
More like it happened to us.
We might have talked about this, but I don't remember. How do you all feel about rom-coms in general?
I think they can be fun. Okay. Some of them, right? If it's done right. I feel like far too often they just follow a standard pattern, and I think that's why they don't work for me. It's all the same story.
Like we joked about the Hallmark Christmas movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that romantic comedies follow a very similar kind of formula. Some of them are great. Like, Isn't It Romantic is a really fun film. I mean, it's kind of poking fun at romantic comedies while being a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. That's an exception where it's kind of making fun of the genre, but I'm not a big fan of like Lifetime movies. Unless there's like a serial killer, I guess.
You said Lifetime.
That's like yeah. So I guess rom-coms like that are on cable networks, made for TV, are not usually that great, in my opinion. But if it's got some A-list names and they're in a romantic comedy, I enjoy me a good You've Got Mail or Sleepless in Seattle. If it's done well, sure.
What are some, you just named a couple. What are some rom-coms that you do like? Others. I like Notting Hill with Julia Roberts. You don't like that one?
I have strong feelings against Notting Hill. We could talk about that.
I just love the roommate and his confusion about the yogurt, and it turns out he's eating mayonnaise and he doesn't even care.
Okay, let's just go on a tangent here since, what else are we going to talk about?
I haven't seen that one.
Notting Hill,
I love it.
To me, is so bad because Julia Roberts' character is so mean.
Yes.
And takes him
kind
for granted. And uses him. And
takes
it's
him
just
for
like
Hugh Grant.
Yeah, it's a Hugh Grant. And it's like
Hugh
over and over again, it's like, and she's not, other than her being a movie star, there's nothing really redeeming or likable about her.
Yeah.
Her character. And there's no reason why he should be in love with her because of how she treats him.
Yeah,
that's why
it's strange.
That's why I'm always like, ugh.
There's a lot of that in romantic comedies in general. It's kind of like, why are these people together?
That's why I don't like 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh.
Oh, I like 10 Things I Hate About You.
We
It's
just
the only
watched
two...
that like yesterday.
No.
Family did.
Sorry, I'm very sorry. I love 10 Things I Hate
Oh,
About You.
okay.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Oh,
is-
yeah. I was like,
Completely different.
I had the 10 in there, but that was,
Right.
Okay, yes.
I did
Yes.
because she is doing her best to be as annoying as possible
On purpose, yeah.
and he's being his best to be as accommodating as possible. It's like they're both just kind of manipulating each other.
And they're both being insincere. Of
Well, they
how
deserve
would-
each other.
Yeah, how they're treating each other. Interesting.
Here's a question for you. I'm looking up a list of top rom-coms. One on here that I actually really enjoy, but I don't know if I would consider rom-com. 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh,
Haven't seen it.
Haven't
I just
seen
call
it
that a
either.
straight up
Haven't seen
comedy.
yeah, it's just comedy.
I hate all of you.
I like Return to Me.
I like the Return to Me
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
and My Best Friend's Wedding.
So I
That
don't
was
like My
pretty
Best
fun.
Friend's Wedding because I feel like that's another example that she's just a horrible person. She's trying to steal her best friend's
I do enjoy that movie, but you're right.
groom. It's just
she's
like,
just so.
what a terrible friend.
Yeah.
So the reason I love that movie begins and ends with the dinner scene where they all sing "Say a Little Prayer for You."
Oh yeah.
And there's the people that have like the big lobster hands that are dancing in the background. And so I don't remember much else about that movie, but I love that scene. So
Okay, here's another one for you. What do you guys think about Groundhog Day? Would
Oh,
you,
yeah, I
would you
like
call that
Groundhog
rom-com?
Day.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think of it as a rom-com, but I
no.
mean, there is a. I mean,
he
he does fall in love with her, and kind of does everything he can to try to woo her.
That's such a broad
Yeah.
movie because it's so many different genres, and yet it's so original and
Yeah,
it's
it's
own
definitely a
thing.
good movie.
Yeah.
But
Well, and he's got all the bad elements of the rom-com,
Right.
like manipulative.
True.
But then he also
But he goes
changes.
through them all, right?
It's a
And it's
working them out kind
Also, a
of a thing.
comedy about the 5 stages of grief, right?
Yeah.
Like he goes through all.
That's
of them.
right.
Yeah,
He does.
that's a good point. It really works in that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a flawed individual, and by the end, he's truly changed.
Yep.
He's a different person. Oh, interesting.
What other ones are on that
Is
list?
Predator on there? You know, between Dylan and
Roxanne is on here.
I like Roxanne.
Yeah.
Let's see. Reality Bites.
Oh.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That one was actually kind of funny.
Trying to think of the
let's
one
see.
with Hugh Jackman from the 90s.
Wolverine.
You know, French Kiss, Something Wild.
The Greatest
no,
Showman.
with what's that?
The Greatest Showman.
It's X2.
No.
X2.
No.
X-Men Origins.
It's X-Men. Wasn't
Okay.
it him and Rogue? right?
On this list,
wait.
they listed Wall-E. Would you consider
Oh, yeah.
that a rom-com?
I don't think it's a rom-com, but maybe it is.
Let's see. My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
That's
I
a
like
fun
that
one.
one.
That's a
The
fun one.
Princess Bride.
Oh,
I don't
That's a
know that I would call that a
rom-com?
rom-com.
That's
know
a
if
great
that would-
movie, but
yeah,
I
I
wouldn't
don't
call
know
it a
if I-
rom-com.
The Wedding Singer.
I love that movie.
50 First Dates.
Haven't
Yes.
seen that one.
Love
Do you know what's
50 First
funny is that
Dates.
50 First Dates is also on some worst rom-com lists that I've seen, but I love both of
Yes.
those
Is it because
movies.
it has Drew Barrymore in it?
I think it's no, I think it's because they feel like he's manipulating somebody with a disability. Even though he's not, because he really likes her.
We'll get to that. Let's see what else is on here. There's a lot of ads on the site. Guys and Dolls. That just seems
I
like
like
a
I like-
romance.
Yeah.
I like the version where the guys and dolls on The Simpsons, where
I haven't seen that.
they're just singing guys and dolls. It's like they don't know the words. It's
Oh.
like just a bunch of guys and dolls.
I think I was thinking of Someone Like You, the one with Ashley Judd, but it's kind of forgettable.
Ashley Judd and Hugh Jackman?
Yeah.
How
I
about
don't even remember that.
Scott Pilgrim
2001.
versus the World?
Is that
I like
a
Would you
that.
call that a rom-com?
I wouldn't
I don't
call
know
it
that I
rom-com
would.
either. That's a
That's
comic
it.
book movie.
I'm putting down this list.
Yeah,
Clearly, I don't know what
they
you're
don't-
talking about.
What website are you visiting?
It's applefacesrule.com.
Appleheads Rule? I have that bookmarked. It must be like a new...
All right. Well, so the movie we watched today was called All About Steve from 2009, featuring or starring Sandra Bullock and Bradley Cooper. They are, I think they're supposed to be love interests.
They go on a blind date.
At least one of them.
They
is.
go.
At least one of them.
They
is
go on
the
a
love
blind
interest.
date
They do go
early
on a
on
blind
in
date.
the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this movie, the quick kind of synopsis of the movie is that Sandra Bullock is a very intelligent woman. She's a crossword puzzle designer, and she's a little quirky. And she goes on a blind date with Bradley Cooper and like immediately falls in love with him. And he gets kind of put off by how quirky she is, and he tries to very kindly kind of be like, "Oh, I have to leave, and I wish you could come with me, but I got work to do, and you've got a job, so that's okay."
Those
Anyway,
social graces kind of escapes.
he's trying to be a nice guy, but still get out of this because his alarm bells are going off, and she immediately gets obsessed with him, gets herself fired, and thinks that that's a sign that she needs to be with him because now she doesn't have a job. There's no reason why she can't be with him, just like he said he wishes she could be. She could be. So she ends up going on a trip, following him all around Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma. Tucson, right. And because he's a cameraman for like a fake CNN. And
I would watch that channel, though.
yeah, with that anchor.
I absolutely would watch
Right.
that. He's so fun.
And then, man, do I even go into the ending? Anyway, there's like a tragedy at the end, and then, in romantic comedies, they usually get together, and in this one, they don't get together, and you kind of don't want them to get together, and still, I think it's kind of a satisfying ending, but it's kind of a weird ending and not... Well, anyway, we can talk about that in detail. But that's the movie. I mean, it's hard to sum it up at the end because there isn't really an ending.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
So
I think she kind of goes through some
self-realization.
Self-realization, and she finally gets kind of clued in. I mean, you feel bad for her, basically. I mean, you're annoyed by her on some level, but you also feel bad for her, like, the whole film.
Yeah, because one guy's manipulating her, and the other guy doesn't realize that how bad she's being manipulated, basically.
Yeah.
He's scared of her. And he should be because of the way she's acting, but she's being told the whole time, "Oh, he loves you. You need to follow us," and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's almost like a child, like innocence towards this whole thing, which,
Right.
I guess we can get into that. I don't know when we want to get into some of the criticisms, but
Let's talk about that in a bit after we talk about how... I mean, I don't know. We can talk
Let's talk about her. Let's talk about
let's
her
talk
for just
about
a sec.
her.
So
She's
something
super
about Mary.
smart.
Her
She's
name
got
is Mary, right?
Something
and
about
there
her.
is something about Mary in this one.
she's got a great vocabulary.
She's
did
like
say
an encyclopedia.
She got fired, but she got fired because she made the crossword puzzle completely all about Steve.
That's what the name of the puzzle was, and every clue.
every
clue
clue
was
was
some
like,
of the clues?
Steve's
Like,
eyes
what
are.
color are Steve's eyes? What does
And
Steve smell like?
Steve's lips taste like.
Yeah.
What does his
Mint
car smell
explosion.
And she let down 7,002 subscribers
From
to
the Sacramento
Yeah.
Herald.
Yeah. like? So I feel like really the copy editor should have been the person who got
That's
fired.
true.
Like
Yeah.
there's really no reason, no way that should have been published.
She didn't even sneak it in. She put it in
Put
the
in the
mail
Dropbox.
drop box, right, for them to get it and publish it.
And the crossword puzzle looked so blatantly wrong. Like it wasn't the typical, white lines up and down and across. It was like row after row of 5 spaced answers that were in I don't know, steps. And it was just completely filled with, it just didn't look like a crossword puzzle, let alone all the clues were about Steve. So.
Actually, Bracken, you grew up in Sacramento.
I am from Sacramento.
Was
Yeah.
Sacramento
so-
Herald your favorite paper? Would you have been very disappointed?
Well, it's a fictitious newspaper for this movie because the Sacramento Bee is
Just like Sacramento in this movie.
is the main. Yeah, it
It's
was
just
not.
like-
Sacramento doesn't
this-
exist.
this
Just
was
like
not
Sacramento in real life.
Yeah,
It
this
doesn't
was
really
not
exist.
filmed in Sacramento. It was filmed in Santa Clarita, but
Which is
it's-
Southern California.
There's a few outside shots where they supposedly are supposed to be in Sacramento, but
Yeah.
yeah, no. Nada.
So, what else about Mary?
So today, she would be labeled on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I
bet you're right.
Not an expert. I'm not a psychologist. I do have a child who's very much on the spectrum.
Right.
I notice things probably more than most other people.
True.
And she was very much playing into somebody today would be like, clearly she's somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah, she has difficulty understanding social cues. She's very intelligent. And she talks a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
So much so that when she's trapped in an abandoned mine shaft with a little deaf girl, the first thing the little deaf girl signs to her is like, I don't know what you're saying, but you talk too much.
Do you know what I think is funny is our listeners are listening to this romantic comedy about a stalker girl, and then we jump to she's in an abandoned mine with a deaf girl. And guess what? That's how we felt too.
I told you that they follow a formula.
It does take some turns, doesn't it? She's taking a bus to follow or catch up with her love interest, Steve.
Yep.
And, she's talking and talking and talking. And the bus driver decides we're gonna take a 5-minute break at this little town. And so everybody off that needs to use the bathroom, and of course Mary is the only one that steps off the bus, and the door immediately closes behind her.
And they drive away.
kind of peel off.
They drive away.
Immediately.
So, I got that she was talking a lot, and some people were annoyed, or at least the driver was annoyed, but it didn't seem like anyone was really ever complaining or talking to her or saying, hey, I don't need to hear her anymore. It was just, I don't know. It seemed like there's a lot of stuff that's just off in this movie as far as
it was like
helping us.
It was like the plot needed this to happen.
Yes. Because she needed to meet someone else. She needed to meet the truck driver.
The truck driver.
The truck driver, he told her to be quiet and stuff like that, but he was also kind of charmed by her.
He was kind of, they were like friends by the end of their time together.
Well, because they started the relationship on "Please don't rape me."
That's right.
And then followed up with like, "Gosh, Jim," or whatever his name was. "Thanks for not raping me." And they have a little, yeah, of course, anytime.
My pleasure.
My pleasure.
When she first meets him, he's like, "I could give you a ride to Tucson," and she's like, "Do you kill small animals or maybe people?" And he's like, "What?" It's weird.
Weird is the word for this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I know we're talking about her, but so we should talk about like the thing that sparks. So she's set up on this blind date, and she spends the whole however long from the beginning of the movie till meeting Steve,
right?
Telling everybody who listens like he's probably, his parents probably think
Terrible.
he's gay,
Parents,
and I'm gonna be the person that tests that, and he's probably ugly. He's probably all these things, and then it turns out it's Bradley Cooper, and then she doesn't say a word to him. She turns around, goes upstairs, and has a long conversation with her hamster about sexy underwear or something, and she comes back down, and she's dressed much more provocatively.
Yes.
And she basically attacks him
in the car. They're going out to eat. He's like, "Hey, you want to go to Ernesto's? They have great." And he's talking, and she
hasn't even said a word to him yet. Yeah.
Just jumps on him and starts kissing him, and he's into it at first, and then he's like, "Wow, this girl's kind of crazy."
She never stops talking
and
and telling him all of these facts about everything in his car,
and so he gets out of it, and I think they're trying to set it up like he was really a bad person for trying to get out of this date.
I felt like he was a good guy. Because he was trying to let her down.
Trying to be nice to her.
So, do we know for sure if he got a call or if he just like seriously
I think he faked it.
Oh, no. Yeah.
He totally faked it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
So he he's trying to let her down gently.
Yeah.
By saying, "Oh, I wish you could come with me on this road trip for work, but I got to work and
you've got to work.
And you got to work."
Yeah.
And so he's kind of set up to be like this bad guy, but I don't think he is.
I don't think so either.
He's kind of.
It's not like he was leading her on. He was very clear every step of the way after that first interaction. Yeah. Like, okay, this is a little much. Like, sure, he could have been a little more direct in that first scene, right, where they're in his car, but like every other step after, he's like,
I don't want you
Mary,
here.
no, like it's not going to happen.
Clear.
It's not going to work. He wasn't leading her on, which I appreciate.
Yeah, he was being a good guy there, but then his like partner, the news anchor guy, what's his name? Thomas Hayden Church.
Yes, Thomas Hayden Church.
He liked Mary being around because she was so smart. She would tell him random facts about the situation that they were in, and he would sound smarter on TV.
Well, and mostly just made Steve crazy.
Right.
I think that's really the end game.
He was kind of
like,
punking Steve.
Yeah. So he was telling her, "Oh, Steve's so much in love with you, and I want you to have babies together. He wants to have babies with you."
And, and if he tells you to go away, it's because he's afraid of his feelings.
That's right, and he just needs you to keep following him. Yeah. So he's the real creep in the whole thing.
He is.
Even though
he does
he's
redeem
hilarious.
himself at the end, which I love.
I mean, the movie is such a wreck all the way. Anyway.
So it was hard for me to stay in the movie because I kept thinking, how did this get made? Why would Sandra Bullock do this? So maybe we should do a little background around the year that this movie came out. 2009 was when it was released.
So, Sandra Bullock hadn't done anything big by then, right?
What?
Speed 2.
Oh,
Cruise Control.
Oh, that's right. She had already done Speed 2.
She's been around for... When did
Control.
the first Speed come out? I mean, it's been...
I don't know.
It's, well into her creds. So this movie was filmed... They shot this movie in 2007, and it sat on a shelf, and it wasn't released until 2009.
But she had 3 movies come out in 2009.
Yes.
And
this was a huge year for her.
Yeah, The Proposal came out, and what's the significance?
The Proposal was the biggest. I mean, she's been in blockbusters, but The Proposal became her biggest budgeted, biggest box office success to date. I mean, to that point.
Is that the one with Ryan Reynolds?
With the one with Ryan Reynolds, and it was a huge hit, huge romantic comedy that was well received.
Yeah.
And then there was another movie that came out.
The Blind Side.
Correct, yeah.
That's the football movie.
Oh, you know what I was thinking? Like maybe they were like, oh, we should release this movie because this is the time of a big financial crisis, right? The stock market had crashed with those mortgage-backed securities and stuff. But like, man, we're already in enough pain. Like, people will go and watch anything to be distracted.
That's true.
I don't know when this came out in
the year.
In the year, but I know that Bradley Cooper had a really big movie also in 2009.
Right.
The Hangover.
Yep.
So she was also in The Proposal in 2009.
That's what we were
talking about.
Oh, sorry. I'm like reading through the stuff right now.
It's like saying 10 things I hate about you, and you meant something else.
The Blind Side, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress for that movie in 2009. I mean, that's a significant award. Guess what? She won an award for this movie too. Guess what movie?
Was it like a VMA award or a BMA award?
People's Choice Award?
She won the Razzie for Worst Actress in a Film. For Worst Actress. And guess what? The awards shows were one night apart from each other, so she went to the Razzie and accepted. She went and actually accepted the award as Worst Actress. She told everyone, okay, I'm going to take this, but I want you guys all to watch that movie again, and if you change your mind, I'm happy to bring it back. And then the next day, she went to the Academy Awards and won Best Actress.
Yeah.
So
the bell curve on that is just a vertical line.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like the Jaws sequel effect in reverse.
So, I mean, she's not the only one. This has happened to people. The one I always think about as far as somebody winning an Oscar and then doing a terrible movie is Halle Berry winning an Oscar, and then the same year Catwoman comes out, and it's like, wait a second, what?
She won it for Monsters Ball?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just looked it up. The Hangover came out in June of 2009.
Okay.
And this movie, All About Steve, was released in September of 2009.
Okay.
So
Do you think that might have been a catalyst? They're like,
I
because it
think
has
so.
a lot of
it does. That's right.
Because Ken Jeong's in both movies.
Exactly.
I think that the success of The Hangover, and they realized, okay, maybe we could. It's because this
Now
movie's.
is the best time to release
We
this
know
movie.
this.
wave.
We know this movie's not good. If we release it now, maybe we'll make a little bit more money than
Otherwise.
yeah.
You know, that's really.
It was like Back to the Future and Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
I'm looking up the stats.
While you're looking, did the plot make any sense? Like, at all?
No.
At all?
No.
Right. I felt like the plot was written by Mary's character, right? Because it was just all over the place. Didn't make any sense. It was jumping from one thing to the next. Like, I get that they're a little bit on a road trip and they try and have this thing where, you know, they're chasing the news, so they're always on different locations. But they brought characters, like fairly significant characters, just randomly got glommed on.
Yeah. So there is this kind of, she has an arc where she suddenly starts to meet other people and finds out that other people like her. You know, like there are other kind of weirdos,
Quirky folks, yeah.
right? And they all like each other and they're great, and none of them judged her, you know, and they loved her red boots.
Yeah.
You know,
That was-
'cause she
everybody
wears
loved-
red boots.
everybody
through the entire
loved the red
film,
boots.
right? Yeah, that's true. Everyone did. That's right.
Oh, so they do poke a lot of fun at the media
Yes,
and the
A
news
lot.
and
Yeah.
the news anchors,
and how fake they are,
and that was like when Thomas Hayden Church's character goes down into the abandoned shaft, and the other newscaster guy's like, "Why didn't I think of that?"
Yeah. So this movie, by the way, had a $15 million budget and made $40 million.
Oh, it did. Wow. Okay.
So I wonder if it would have only made $8 million if those other movies
it
hadn't
didn't-
come out
yeah.
first.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
probably.
So if a movie like this makes, you know, almost 3 times almost triple its budget, is it victim blaming to say it's the audience's fault if more of this gets made?
So what happened is everybody that went in was told, you love this movie.
Yes.
It loves you.
Yes.
If you hate this movie, it's not you. It's just your emotions getting in the way.
I'm trying to think of how they I don't know how they marketed this movie. I have not seen a trailer for this movie. Did they market this as a romantic comedy? Because I feel like, I want to ask all of you, was this movie romantic? And was this movie a comedy? Were you laughing during this movie?
So
I laughed several times
I
during
did
this movie.
too.
And sometimes with it. Most of the time at it.
Mostly at the anchor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I laughed at some parts that were meant to be funny, and I felt like they were funny. But romantic, man. I mean, I was even saying, I was like, I don't know who are we supposed to want her
It's
to be
not
in love
a
with?
typical romantic.
Like,
yeah, it's
I was
more
worried
like
These
he's
a.
other
like-
friends that she found? Is
It's
she
more of an
crushing on this other guy?
adventure
Is she going to be in
movie.
love? Because I thought, I'm like, oh no, the Applehead guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it seems like he was going to end
Except-
up with the American Housewife lady.
That's right.
Katie
yeah.
Mixon, yeah.
But, you know, I think that in the end, she learned to love herself. Though I don't think she ever had a problem with that.
No.
I mean, she kind of, that's what happens, is she meets other people who are quirky, she has friends, and then she kind of has a conversation with herself when she's with the deaf girl.
monologuing
Because,
a little bit,
yeah,
yeah.
she's monologuing because the deaf girl, who even says, I don't know what you're saying, but you talk a lot. And she's like, I know. But she kind of works out all of her issues and then comes out and is more confident. But I didn't really feel like confidence was her issue.
I don't think confidence was an issue. I think she became a little more self-aware.
That's probably
a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, remember when the editor at the newspaper was like, "Be more normal," and
That's
she
right.
takes a single note that says "Be more normal."
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, it kind of comes back around to that where she's saying like, find people who are normal just like you,
Yeah,
or something.
right,
And then
yeah.
it's her standing in her crowd of weirdos
Right.
who are like, "Oh, I found my people."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more about being herself and being okay with that.
And like connecting with people. Because you got the impression she didn't have friends.
That's true.
Right.
Because like
Yep.
the editor, when he's like, be more
He
normal,
was saying,
he's like,
go out and do
he's
stuff.
like, work less,
Yes.
Yeah.
everything else more.
Yes.
And I thought especially at the beginning, it set itself up because she goes to the career day at the school.
Yes.
Right.
And the little and the kids are like, you don't have a husband, you don't have a boyfriend, you live at home.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, great, it's gonna be just like all those other ones because she can't exist without being like married to somebody.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
you have no worth, and it's such a big deal. But it didn't go that way.
Right.
And so I was happy for that. I mean, I do feel like the writers were just making it up as they went along, like as they were filming, like, and then they're like, oh crap, like, how do we get? Like,
and then they're like, I don't know what we want to do.
They're like, what are we gonna do here? How are we gonna get? We've written ourselves into a corner. But so I'm glad that it didn't take that route.
Yeah.
And then like her parents, when the media comes and the one reporter's like, living at home at her age, that's weird, right? And so the parents cry. They're like, we love having her here.
Yeah.
Like, why is that a bad thing? And
so maybe I'm just dense, but she kept using that my house is getting fumigated. Do you think that was just her excuse?
Yeah, it was.
Like that's just what she told people
yeah.
because even the parents were like,
too.
Fumigation takes a long time.
I'm sure that her parents listen. Yeah, I'm sure that her parents were like, we would rather have her close to us to make sure she's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and we will all agree that fumigation, like, it's the unspoken rule that we're all going to agree that fumigation takes time. That way she can keep staying here and not feel like she's a failure.
Yeah.
Right? Instead, there's a reason that she's here. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the other people in this. So let's talk about, well, we kind of talked about Bradley Cooper. Did anyone want to say anything else about him?
He's young in this.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's very young.
Ken Jeong also looks very young.
Yeah. I mean, but getting to Bradley Cooper, I think I think he was charming for what it was. Like, you know, he just seemed like,
I feel like he was genuine
weirded
through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he was as much a victim as she was.
Right. Absolutely.
Of Thomas Hayden Church's antics.
Well, so an interesting thing is like flip this story on its head where she's the news anchor and he's the crazy dude who is just constantly chasing him, and it takes on a totally different tone, right?
Different tone. That's right. Then it's scary.
Yeah. But it's funny when she does it.
Well, I mean, there were times when she was kind of scary too.
Totally.
Yeah.
And running towards him and like, and he's like, and he was just kind of keeping it.
Not knowing what to do.
Not knowing what to do, but he was being super nice about the situation, you know?
I like when he... Well, so the news things were also ridiculous. Yeah, so when they're at the three-legged baby thing, and he's...
So to explain the three-legged baby to our listeners...
So we mentioned
Peggy, right? Was the child's name, or Betsy? It's one of those two.
I think that Peggy was the name that somebody called.
Peggy, get it right? Peg leg.
So, I'll be honest, I didn't until just now.
So we already mentioned that they were chasing the news.
Yeah.
So there was the first instance they go to. The reason she gets stranded in Arizona is because they're sent to this on location where have you ever been to one of those Pioneer or Frontier things where they have a show and there'll be the guy up in
shootout.
Fake shootouts
yes,
and
right,
stuff
out on the street.
But the Wild Bill guy or whatever his name was, he
took everyone
he
hostage.
flipped his lid and he took everyone hostage for real, and so they're covering that, and they go from that to covering a baby that's born with 3 legs, and the mom wanted the leg amputated, and the dad wanted the leg to stay, and so there was a whole big news
legal
thing
battle of what they're gonna do.
Well, and her best friends becomes the traveling peggers, the leggers, the 3 leggers. I think they call them. Yeah,
all the supporters that want the baby to keep the leg.
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
So anyway, what I liked is so that's when she catches up because she misses him in Arizona.
Right.
And she catches up to there, and he's between shoots, and he's up on a walkway, and he's just taking still pictures for part of his job. And she sees him, and she starts jumping up and down and waving, and it's like the camera's following him through the camera lens, and he sees her, and then he moves forward, and then it goes back, and she's missing, and then she's up on the walkway. So I did enjoy like some of that cinematography, some of that.
Yeah.
Those shots.
That's clever.
And the 3-legged baby, I think that was an excuse to just do a lot of crass jokes.
Yeah.
And then what came next? The hurricane.
The hurricane in Galveston.
The hurricane and
there was a tornado on the way.
And but there was also it was the hurricane, and then they kept saying there was threat of like locust invasion or something. Right?
Oh no, it was cicadas.
Or cicadas. Thank you. Yeah.
It was the 17-year cicadas or whatever in the middle of a hurricane.
Yeah.
And a tornado comes out of nowhere.
Yep.
And that's where we see the cicadas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't make any sense.
No. And then they get yelled at. So Thomas Hayden Church and those three guys, they are traveling around, and he really wants to be
the anchor.
The anchor.
Yeah.
And so he feels like he needs to prove himself, but their boss hates them and just wants them to just get out of here. And so he's just constantly sending them on garbage. They're filming in the hurricane. A tornado happens somewhere else, and they get yelled at for missing the tornado.
Right, yeah.
Like, people don't know when tornadoes are going to show up. That was just...
Well, and then the hurricane just passes.
Yeah.
And, you know, if anyone who's lived in, like, hurricane country, they don't
it's gone. Right, yeah.
It's
just dry desert again.
Yeah. And
is that when the deaf children come in? I can't remember.
That's up next. That's after.
That's the last one.
Sorry.
So let's talk about that deaf children, okay? Because all of this stuff has happened, and we kind of get, okay, here's the story. Mary's just going to keep following. Mary's going to keep following Steve. Thomas Hayden Church is going to keep egging her on, encouraging her to show up.
Okay, so after the tornado and the apple head guy.
Yeah.
So quickly,
yeah,
he's one of the pro three-leggers that she meets, and he has a degree in physics, but he got bored doing physics, so he just does apple head
carvings
art.
Yeah.
So if to anyone who's not familiar with that, like I remember doing this when I was a little kid in like elementary school. Is you would, and Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of carve what you want it to look like into the apple, and then you let the apple dry.
And it gets all wrinkly and looks like a witch.
Yeah, so we would do witches at Halloween time. And so that's what he does is.
And so he sells everything. She's like, oh, where do you sell that kind of thing? At appleheadsrule.com.
I checked. It doesn't exist.
But he had a bumper sticker.
Yeah. What I think is funny is that wasn't his. It didn't seem like it was his website. It's just like the website where people sell those things. It's like eBay for
Apple heads.
I think they just transitioned that site into Etsy.
I see.
But then, so they get caught in the tornado.
Yeah.
Mary.
Doesn't matter.
Applehead and American Housewife. They get caught, and his Gremlin or whatever car just gets destroyed. And so on their way to the deaf children thing, the news guys, they see them stranded there, and instead of helping them, like one guy writes it on the bottom of a popcorn,
this is where
bucket,
we're going.
Like, this is where we're going. Meet us there, and he misspells meat.
Yeah. And they're so disappointed. They're like,
well, that's when, like, her two friends see through the ruse, but she still doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so they don't help. They just drive past. Like,
so can we talk about the children scene?
Yeah.
So, I say horrible things. Horrible things haven't been happening. Just fairly mundane things have been happening. But I think we all just kind of like laughed when we see a bunch of kids running out in a field.
They're running to the carnival.
They're running over to the carnival.
But you don't know that yet.
Yeah,
you just see a bunch of kids, and I was like, oh, something horrible's going to happen to these kids. And then all the teachers start signing to them, and I was like, oh no.
They're deaf children.
Kids. I was like, they're
like
going to get stuck
kids.
on a Ferris wheel or something. And no, they're running through the field, and all of a sudden there's just a puff of smoke. A hole opens up in the ground, and all of the kids fall the bottom of this like 100-foot deep shaft.
They all run into it like they're lemmings.
Yeah.
They all just fall into it.
Yeah. Just like that. In like 2
random.
seconds.
Yeah.
So random. I mean, you cannot overstate this. It's just like,
it was quite shocking.
Yes.
Because you think, oh no, there's going to be a crazy clown.
Right.
Like,
abrupt is the word.
Yes.
Man.
Do you think a lot of this feels like there wasn't a whole lot of thought put into it. They were just kind of like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if a bunch of deaf kids fell into a mine? And then they're like, then they say, it's kind of like that improv thing where it's just like, okay, and now take it, right? Or do you think there was some thought into, we have a joke that we want even a deaf kid to say you talk too much and then work their way backwards into dumping them all into a mine.
I don't feel like they thought it through that deeply.
No, I think that this is a typical thing that news anchors cover, a kid falling into a mine.
Right.
And they're like, I know, we'll one-up this. It'll be a whole
class full of deaf kids.
Class, and they're going to, let's make them deaf too.
Yeah.
And that'll make it really funny.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Just completely play it up. And yet, it's just so over the top.
So they
doesn't fit the rest of the movie.
I mean, it gives a reason for all the news people to show up. So all the news people show up, but they really quickly, they get a crane in there. They drop the crane down, and one at a time, like there's a fireman on the end of the cable. He goes down and he brings them up one at a time, and they rescue them all. He says, that's the last one, and they get them, and everybody's cheering and stuff. And then Mary shows up.
But, okay, real quick though. How bad are these people at their jobs? The girl was literally like 4 feet away from the main shaft.
Well, I mean, maybe she went somewhere to use the bathroom and then showed up again and realized that she was left there alone. I don't know.
Didn't they get... Well, I think one of the kids signed it to his dad.
Yeah, I thought he was saying that there was one more, and they didn't bother.
And then nobody told him anything.
Yeah.
But then the crane starts to sink.
Yes.
They didn't hear him. Or
So
something?
they just gave up.
So I don't know if the dad really was able. Maybe the dad couldn't because of all that hubbub.
Yeah,
but the camera did zoom in on one kid
on the
signing
kid
to
saying something, and I'm sure I could tell by his accent that he was saying, "There's one more kid."
Was it an Italian accent?
He had his fingers together.
Nice.
He's like, "There's one more," but
they wouldn't listen.
So they think they've got all the
they
kids.
Wouldn't listen to his sign language.
It seems like they've got all the kids, right?
Yeah.
Everybody now, the news people are kind of winding down their coverage, and Thomas Hayden Church is standing there doing a fake, like he's crying and touched by what's happening.
And here comes Mary.
And Mary is over his shoulder, and Bradley Cooper can see her because he's looking at him through the camera.
Yeah.
And she's waving at Bradley Cooper, "Hey, Steve, hey." And she just runs straight towards him and just drops right in the hole. He captures it on camera.
To be clear, I mean, this hole's like 10 feet across.
Yeah.
Like, you don't overlook this hole.
That's right. She just runs and then drops in. And everyone was like,
what just happened?
Well, actually, he is like, Mary just fell in the hole. And
he's like, wouldn't it be hilarious if
he's like,
fell?
that's a good job. Or, good try. Nice try. And he's like, no, she really did. And so then the story all starts to revolve about, why is Mary in the hole? Did she jump in on purpose? And, they're doing reenactments with little graphics and stuff.
Which were some of my favorite parts. So, like, the first one, they show the shaft, and they show her bouncing off of every possible wall. They have an expert, and they're like, is she mangled and maimed for life? I mean, is she scarred all over the place? And he's like, there's a high probability, yes. And
he's like, I don't want to...
I don't want to speculate, but couldn't that fall kill him? And the guy's like, I don't want to speculate either, but absolutely.
And then as time goes on, it's that they find a picture of her that looks not much like her at all.
Weird picture.
And then they're like, oh, I think at this point they find out that there was the deaf girl down. And they're like, maybe she went in to save the girl.
This is what happened is they're like, we need to find out if she's conscious or not. So they take a fishing pole.
Oh, right.
And they
send a note down.
Send a paper and a pencil down to the bottom. And she reads. This I thought was funny because it was classic Mary. They send her the note and she unfolds it and it says, "Hello, Mary, are you?" And she rolls her eyes and then she grabs the pencil and you can tell she's writing a thing. So then they roll it back up. And they're like, "Oh, this is a great sign. There's a response." And everyone's cheering. And the guy is reading it live on TV. I think you mean conscious. and then she, defines conscious.
And
conscience is the thing that helps you know right from wrong.
Yeah.
And then one of the firemen's like, "Can we leave her down there?"
But then she says, "Also, is somebody missing a little deaf girl?"
And
everyone's like, "What?"
She's like, "She's perfectly fine, except for not being able to hear."
Oh man, what a weird.
It was so
movie.
random. Now, however, my favorite part of the whole movie is when the friends, the quirky friends.
Yeah.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Get to Thomas Hayden Church and basically fill him in on Mary's story, because people are starting to kind of talk bad about Mary at this point. Like, what kind of a crazy person falls down a well and all this. And, the winds are shifting. He's starting to feel bad. Like, I probably shouldn't have done all that. She seems like a nice person, actually.
She was only there because he was leading her on the whole time. Yeah.
And so he opts to make it better. What's the quote that he uses from Patton? Like
a bad
a
violently executed
plan is better than a great plan, or something like that.
He says like a violently executed plan now is better than a well-planned plan tomorrow, or something like that. Yeah.
So he bolts towards the fire truck, grabs a fire hose, and then just leaps into the hole.
But the hose wasn't connected to anything.
Not connected, so he just falls straight down to the bottom of the shaft. I don't know. I just thought it was funny to see him just like, leaping into the center of this thing.
Well, that was the best, because the other anchor is like, "Why didn't I think of that?"
Yeah.
Oh man, that's right. He literally says that.
Because it's like their rival guy. Because back at the three-legged baby, he had a three-legged doll.
Yeah.
As a prop for his coverage, and
trying to one up the other anchor every time.
Yeah. And the kind of the funny thing that happens is Thomas Hayden Church jumps in like that just right at the same moment that
they figured out how to get out.
Mary has figured out how to get out, and she's calculated the weight of her and the little girl, and she's going to push a minecart filled with rocks down the thing and use it like
leverage.
A lever to pull them up.
Yeah.
But now he's down there, and she's like, we were just about to come up, but...
I guess we can take you too.
Yeah. So then
he's adjust. And he's like, "I'm not out for the credit." He's like, "I want the credit."
Yeah.
So, is there anything redeeming about this show?
Yeah. I mean, listen. Yeah. I'll save my conclusion. I'll talk about it in my conclusion.
Okay.
But I think, as a romantic comedy, this is not a romantic comedy. I don't think it's fair to call it that, and I don't think it's a good movie. I think it is a bad movie, but
it criminally underuses Keith David.
Oh,
he's the boss.
He's the head of the CCN.
Yeah,
yeah, the fake thing.
Corporate cable news.
So one of my favorite things with him is when he. Do you guys ever watch Community?
Yeah.
When he narrates the pillow and blanket war.
Oh yeah,
and it's like the civil,
two big episodes.
It's like the Ken Burns Civil War, but it's him. It's him narrating it.
Nice.
That's awesome. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we throw down our judgment?
I was just gonna say this is an unusual movie because it just really wasn't what I was expecting. I don't know what I was gonna expect, but it was.
But it wasn't that.
It wasn't like you said. It was not a romantic comedy. It was, and yet the performances, on the whole, I mean, I enjoyed watching Sandra Bullock. Yeah. I enjoyed watching Bradley Cooper and Thomas Hayden Church. It's a fun cast as a whole, but it does get a little slow towards the end. But yet I felt like it was not agonizing for the majority of the movie. Like, it was pretty entertaining for what it was, even though I wasn't quite sure what I was watching, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I struggled with her character because
right.
It felt so I kept saying I got a little PTSD. So I have a child who's on the spectrum, and also I had somebody report to me that was very similar to her and just very talkative, very intelligent.
Right.
And if you could get them to focus, did excellent work. But it was just constantly a struggle to have that happen. So I just kept having flashbacks and just like, I'm getting anxious right now just
Right.
watching this movie, and I shouldn't be. Like, I'm completely disconnected from it. But I think the issue that I had with her, she felt a little exploitative
Oh yeah.
so more of a parody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
could see that. And that's been a complaint about this film. At least, I don't know if it was a complaint back then, but
it
it's
probably
a complaint
wasn't.
nowadays.
It probably
Nowadays
wasn't. I mean,
it is.
because what? It's 17 years old
Yeah.
now. So yeah, different time. But you know,
2009.
watching. Oh, sorry, I was thinking 2005. But yeah, so I don't know. I think that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. I'm a little bit closer to it, so maybe
Yeah, right.
you know.
That's true.
But I think even still, we all kind of commented that like she feels like she's playing a bit more than
Yeah.
just being a character, right?
It didn't age well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
I mean, I'll use the example like Forrest Gump still holds up.
Yep.
Like he played a character honestly, but I think this character and this type of character was played up for a
little
gag.
bit, or what is it? Caricatured.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So, is this the first movie of season of 4 seasons? Is it bad or exceptionally bad? What do you guys think? Nate, you want to go first?
Okay, so I gotta say one thing we didn't mention that I just feel like I gotta mention real quick is that I hated her hair.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
I don't even know how to describe it.
It felt like
It
a
was
bad
like a
wig sitting on
blonde-
top of
yeah,
another
yeah.
wig.
on top of another bad wig.
It looked like hair that like a child would have cut their own hair. I mean, that's kind of what it looked like. So I know a little bit about hair, and I was looking at it, and it was layered, but it was not layered well. I mean, she had really, really short layers all across the top. I mean, little tiny locks here and there. It was like a little kid with craft scissors kind of went through and just grabbed chunks of hair and cut it at different lengths. That's what her hair looked like, and it wore like a mullet.
It also, to me, it felt a lot like a big hair band got caught in a
Yes.
rainstorm.
Yeah, true.
Right? So it was like,
It's like
no longer standing up, it fell
It
down.
all fell down. Yes, that's a good
Which
description as well.
think lends to the caricature aspect
Right.
of her as a
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
That it's not only, I mean, it's like because normally, like we learned in Alone in the Dark, like if you're nerdy and smart, you have glasses and your hair is up.
true.
Right.
So they
Oh,
broke.
that's why I had a hard time believing that she was smart.
Right, and
Oh,
she didn't have glasses, and so they broke the mold on that. But I think it lent to the air of like, this is not her playing someone
Right.
like this. This is just kind of making fun of these people.
Right.
Yeah.
But would I say this movie is bad or exceptionally bad? Like, I laughed a lot, and number of the times I laughed when I was supposed to laugh.
Right.
And so, would I watch this again with people? I would. I think it's very, now that I kind of know what it is, I think it's very watchable.
Right.
It's painful in some points. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it was exceptionally bad.
Okay. Bracken?
This movie is watchable for sure. I agree with you, Nate. I think it was fun in a lot of ways. It does drag a little bit once she lands in the mine. They could have cut maybe 10 minutes out of that.
And miss all those graphics.
Well, they could have done it a little bit faster, maybe 5 minutes, but it was starting to feel like, okay, when is this going to be over? With that said, there's something about this movie's tone. It's just so, I don't know. It's I guess there's lots of jokes there, but some of them landed for me, some of them didn't, and I don't know. This movie is a head scratcher. I could probably talk about this a little bit more, but I don't think I want to drag it out. So, I'll probably want to come back and revisit this or something, and no one wants to hear it, but I'll just talk about it to myself. So, that's kind of how I feel. I'm still kind of dumbfounded.
Just talk to himself in the mirror when he gets home.
You can talk to your hamster.
Is this an exceptionally bad movie? I agree with Nate. I think it is. I think it's It's so bizarre, and yet it's watchable. It's not painful like some of the other movies we've seen. It does, like I said, get a little long, but without repeating myself, I'm going to just say it's exceptionally bad. I think Sandra Bullock, I just want to address this because we talked about her getting a Razzie. I didn't feel like she did a bad performance at all. Like, I thought she was great. I don't know if the direction or maybe the writing, obviously the writing, but are at fault, but I don't feel like she did she was never like, oh, she delivered that line really bad, or she was never she got the award for being in a bad movie,
right?
Not for being a bad actress.
It was kind of an annoying character.
Yeah, slightly annoying, and then sometimes I felt like she wasn't annoying enough. Like she was so. I mean, it's Sandra Bullock, so how do you make Sandra Bullock annoying? It's hard to do. Maybe she got it because she wasn't annoying enough.
Yeah.
In the part, but I mean, everyone loves Sandra Bullock, and she's lovable in this movie, even though she's trying to be annoying. So, some things just don't work very well, but it's a fun cast, and it's over the top ridiculousness in some parts of this movie that you'll have fun watching with a group of friends. So, I'll just leave it at that and turn it to you, Brant.
Yeah, so I already said I think I'm a little close to some of the things in this, and so I think it was maybe a little bit harder, but I absolutely agree with you guys that it's not a great movie. It feels like a good song that's just in the wrong note, in the wrong key.
Right.
It's just like everything's there. It should be good, but it's just off a little bit, right? I had a lot of fun laughing at some of the points where we were supposed to laugh. Like when he gets yanked off of that, when he's Bradley Cooper's character gets yanked off of the thing while he's filming and just flies off backwards. I was like, holy crap, that's hilarious. I don't know. I'm a glutton for punishment, kind of stuff like that. But yeah, the script is a mess. The plot is a mess, but I would agree. It's exceptionally bad. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch this, but if it's on, I'm not going to throw a fit and run out of the room.
It's not a strong exceptionally bad, but it's there. It's enough.
It's in, it's in the zone.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So I really liked Sandra Bullock in this. I saw this movie in 2009, but I didn't remember anything about it other than, oh yeah, I remember I kind of liked her character in that. And I did. I liked her in this too. I think that it was, I don't know, kind of charming. I just really liked her.
I'm smiling because Nate asked that question earlier about who's at fault for, movies like this making a profit, and you were one of those people.
I'm one of those people
that helped that long.
That's true. I probably saw it on video.
Okay,
but,
there you go.
Because I'm sure I didn't go to the movie theater to watch. I don't go to movie theaters to watch rom-coms.
It's sounding like she might be in your wallet.
No, she's never has been. Look, I
just her
appreciate
wigs.
her, but listen, Sandra Bullock came along after my wallet time.
Now I just carry a billfold.
So, I liked her character. I mean, I liked her character. There's, complaints about it and stuff, but I thought she was cool. And I liked the fact that she kind of didn't care what other people thought about her. I just have always liked that kind of thing. There is a thing that I thought about, from the moment the deaf kids fall in the hole, it's like it's a whole new movie, right?
Yeah.
And it reminded me of From Dusk Till Dawn.
Uh-huh.
If you haven't seen that, it's
that sharp left at the end.
Yeah, well, it's a movie about these bad guys kidnapping a family, and then they go into a bar, and the movie changes completely because the bar is run by vampires, and now the vampires are trying to kill everyone, right? And it's like two different movies stuck together. And this is kind of what I felt like here is it's like, here's Mary the Stalker, and then here's this just ridiculous news thing that's happening for it's not really the second half, but that's what it feels like.
So they could have cut out the hurricane and the tornado.
Oh, yeah.
And it would
easily.
That's right.
And
that
it would
was
have felt
unnecessary.
less like two different movies.
Right, yeah, that's true.
I did appreciate at the end that they don't get together, and they're both
Yes.
totally okay with that. Like, I appreciate that they didn't.
Yeah.
Because I think we were all feeling anxious. Like,
We were
how are they
confused.
going to get them
Who's
together?
supposed to get together? How are
Yeah.
they going to get together? It's going to be really weird if they get together. Instead, he was just honest with her, and he apologized for, accidentally not being clear, trying to be nice. Basically, he was very clear to her that, I'm sorry that I made you feel this way.
Yeah.
He's
right?
like, I should have been
And he
more
was
clear.
sincere, and she already had figured it out, basically,
They're almost like friends,
Yeah.
He's like,
and,
hey, don't
and
don't
I
ever
hope
change.
that they'll be friends,
Yeah.
right? That's kind of the way I felt about this. So I had a great time laughing at it. I am with everybody else. I consider it exceptionally bad because it is a bad movie, but it is also a fun movie to watch with people. So it's totally worth watching. It's a different kind of exceptionally bad than something like Troll 2, right? It's not just like poor production value.
Right.
It was everybody acted well in it.
Especially Peggy.
even the dialogue was not like atrociously written. It just kind of like the story wasn't really clear, and it was just kind of like we've said, it appears that nobody knew what the end was from the beginning.
Right.
They didn't know what they were doing and kind of making it up as they go. It was kind of like an improv show.
Well, we made the comment too. It felt weird because it felt like she did she was monologuing as if she was doing an editorial piece
Right,
in a
over the
newspaper
top.
the entire time. And so we're like, oh, maybe she has this arc where that's what she turns into.
And we find out later on that, oh yeah, this is like her memoir, and she's telling the story of how she got here or something, right? And
Yeah,
it's like, no.
Yeah.
It's-
I guess I get frustrated with the whole, I make puzzles, like,
you'd
Right.
think her narration would be more puzzle related.
Right. That's true.
what's a 4-letter word for engagement between two people? Love. And then goes into it.
Well, so I did notice that, like, at the very beginning, like, it's crossword puzzles everywhere you look, and they didn't stick with that. Like, once you establish that's what she does, then she gets fired from the job. Then crosswords really aren't
Right.
mentioned again, except for her always talking about that's what she does for a living.
Right.
But but it was one of those annoying things because it's like it was like a Hallmark movie,
Yeah.
the Hallmark Christmas movie, where it's like we live in Christmas tree town, so everything is like Christmas tree themed.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
And I thought, oh no, is this everything crossword puzzle themed?
Wait, hold on though. We never grew up in Sacramento. Bracken, are you huge into crossword puzzles? Is that just a Sacramento thing that we don't understand?
I am not.
Were you an outsider in that then?
I think I was. I don't think that's really a Sacramento thing, to be honest.
I heard Sac State had a graduate program.
And
In
I know
crossword
that there are
puzzles.
some people that like
the New
crossword
York
puzzles,
Times.
but I think that it was overstated the importance
little
in
bit.
this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So-
Everyone that's getting their hair done in the barbershop,
Oh,
in
yes.
the beauty, they're all
So
like
upset
comparing.
that they
The 6
couldn't do
dudes
it.
in the bathroom stalls all doing the crossword
These
puzzle
are
together.
impossible.
Yeah, I just don't think that's how the real world is, or especially was back
man.
in 2009.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I think that like Nate talked about, the glasses is what tells us when somebody is smart. And I think in this was their glasses. They were trying to tell us she's smart because she makes crossword puzzles. Because they didn't want to put glasses on her. I don't know.
Or put her hair up.
Yeah,
Or
right.
they couldn't because she cut it too weird.
Yeah. So I guess that's pretty unanimous. This is an exceptionally bad movie.
Off to
That's
a good
way to
start.
start. Yeah. Hopefully the rest of the movies we watch during this mini season, we've got 3 more romantic comedies coming up. I can't wait to see them.
All right, so
we definitely have at least one really exciting one that.
So this was Ben's pick.
Yes.
So each one of us is going to have a pick, and
Yep.
then we're going to kind of decide
We're gonna
who
duke it out.
Yeah, who had the best
A strong contender here.
exceptionally bad rom-com for this category. So
Nice.
all right, the
So,
bar's been set.
I just want to say, like, real quick, as like a content warning, I feel like this is more on the grown-up side of PG-13.
Okay.
With some of the humor.
Yeah.
Some of the,
There was no nudity and the language was not terrible, but the subject matter
were a lot
was
of
little
innuendos.
bit-
There was a
yeah.
lot of just open talking
Innuendos,
about grabbing
right.
boobs and stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
by Sandra Bullock.
Yes, right. Great. So, where can our listeners talk to us? Hey, if you have suggestions for other romantic comedies that you that we should do, or themes that we should do for the mini season, contact us. Email us at, who's got that one?
The guys at exceptionallybad.com.
Okay.
Check out our Instagram at exceptionally bad.
Yep. And if Twitter is still alive, we are exceptionally bad there.
Are we going to pay the $8 to get official?
Official.
Do we have $8?
We'll have to cash in all of our ad money.
Still won't cover it.
Or you can hit our website, exceptionallybad.com.
Yep. So thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bad movies with your friends. Bad movies with your friends. Oh, yeah.
Ugh, that was terrible. Can we fix that in post?